Hello friends, this is Chris. So today we are going to see some brilliant minds informations. There are several brilliant minds in this world, and we know some of them. And today also we are going to know another famous brilliant mind name. We are going to see how he was beautiful, how he was brilliant, and he is multi-talented person. He is multi-talented, and many people have heard his name. So, and a little of the knowledge we know about that person. So let's have a look about that brilliant mind person.
Born in 1452 in Tuscany, Italy, Leonardo da Vinci would grow up to
So this is Leonardo da Vinci. I hope that everybody has heard his name.
become one of the greatest minds of all time. He was a highly talented artist, sculptor, visionary, and a self-taught engineering genius. But while most people
So sculptor, visionary. Even I have also heard that he is mathematicians, also physicist, also sculptor, and even in drawings also he is very much famous. Some of them drawings are like Mona Lisa is there. Then a supper scene of Jesus having dinner in his last times. That drawing was like a aliveness. It's aliveness in the drawing. So let's have a look.
have heard about Da Vinci's famous works of art, like the Mona Lisa or the Last Supper, they may be less familiar with this equally well-developed part of his persona. Before his death in 1519, Da Vinci would develop many revolutionary concepts and inventions that were centuries ahead of his time. So prolific was his work that it is difficult for many to believe one man could produce so much in one lifetime. And yet he did. He was driven by his desire to understand how nature works. This desire would fuel his quest to invent and experiment, leading to his remarkable insights into the workings of the natural world.
Wow, everything is just seems to be in the modern world. Actually, he is far away from his time. He's farther ahead of his times. He has invented many of the things, and even you can see his drawings, all that portraits he has drawn for all those great technologies that was invented in the future.
Da Vinci's proficiency as an artist also allowed him to sketch out and plan his inventions and engineering ideas in
Yes, those time we know that many people used to do some sketching, make a blueprint of their inventions, and after that they are going to then build those inventions. The technologies, they all those build those devices.
great detail. So clear were many of his diagrams.
See, this is the hand skeleton. So clearly he has drawn. Even I have also heard that he is a coroner. Those who study about the bodies, dead bodies. He have also amputated many dead bodies and research about those skeletons. What is in human heart, brain, organs, all those things he have researched, studied, and also he has drawn clearly.
And blueprints that we are able to use them to build working replicas of his inventions today. It should be noted that many artists of Da Vinci's time also had side gigs as architects and engineers. Yet Da Vinci was certainly one of the most skilled. In fact, he was employed as a bona fide engineer for many years in Milan in the late 15th century. One notable example
I love those white guy.
was his work on the military defenses of Milan during the 1480s. Aware that the ruler of Milan, Duke Sforza, was looking to employ military engineers, Leonardo drafted an application letter that included a 10-point list of his engineering abilities. In case of a siege, I know how to dry up the water of the moats and how to construct an infinite number of bridges, covered ways, scaling ladders, and other machines for this type of enterprise.
Wow. Means he has drawn some 10 points and applied in those military jobs. That time he was applying one of the job. And of course I think that if somebody read his all those 10 points, anybody can hide it.
Wrote. It worked, and he was eventually employed as an engineer. A decade later, Sforza would commission him to paint the last
Last Supper, Sports. I think he is one of the Sforza, he is one of the king of Italian king. This is the Last Supper.
Supper. Leonardo was only 30 years old at the time and would continue to work in Milan as a military engineer for 17 years. In 1502, he was appointed as chief military engineer for the Borgia. During this time, he studied many of the existing instruments of war and designed some new weapons of his own. He famously developed designs for some of the earliest concepts of tanks, submarines, and even a primitive.
Wow, means he has also invented submarines. I mean, he has made the concept of submarines, tanks. That time I don't think that there was any submarines existed in those 14th, 15th centuries. Later on in the 20th centuries or in the 19th centuries, submarines was launched, invented. Later on, all those come after his 300 or 400 years after his death.
Auto-firing gun, although these were never built. Among many other designs, in 1495 he detailed plans for a three-wheeled, wind-up, self-moving automobile that has also been called the first robot. Da Vinci also had a strong understanding of levers, gears, cranes, hydraulics, ball bearings, as well as a basic grasp of the physics of flight.
Light.
So, what are some of Leonardo da Vinci's greatest contributions to engineering? Well, as you're about to find out, they are pretty significant. For example, he is often referred to as the first systems engineer. Through his work, he was able to create a new way of looking at and understanding how machines work. We'll let the curators at the Boston Museum of Science explain further. He reasoned that by understanding how each separate machine part worked, he could modify them and combine them in different ways to improve existing machines or create inventions no one had ever seen before.
That means I can tell that he was studying about those machines. He inventing new types of technologies. He draws them, and think about them, and that is the way to progress of those existing machines. He used to see all those existing machines and included his ideas. He thought about those ideas, that new features what to apply on those existing machines. So he is progressive in the machines. He was very much interested in various types of machines.
Or, to this end, his notebooks are crammed with systemic explanations of how each component in his inventions combined to make them work as a whole. This was revolutionary for his age. Most of his greatest thoughts and studies were written in a body of work called the Codex Leicester. This is currently owned by Bill Gates, although it is on display at the Seattle Art Museum and has been fully digitized for the public to view at their leisure.
Okay, so this notes has been kept by Bill Gates and it has been digitized. As you can see, if you keep the finger on that screen, it will zoom out. Clearly, you can read it. That's a great thing.
Line. Within the Codex and his 30 or so other journals are illustrations of discoveries well ahead of their time. One of the smallest of the journals is the Codex Forester, which dates to between 1490 and 1493 and contains notes on geometry, weights, mechanics, and hydraulic mechanisms. Another work contains up to 200 pages about the nature of mechanics, as well as a detailed guide on building a foundry to create an enormous metal horse. Da Vinci also made detailed studies in structural engineering. One example was his work on the concept of arc rupture, a previously understudied field. He made detailed sketches and treatises on the breaking strength of an arch, including developing our understanding of the line of thrust. Da Vinci also made detailed scientific studies of the nature and strength of building materials. But this wasn't just theoretical work. He also found work as an architect and adopted many of his findings into the design of the churches of Milan. Many of these churches still awe bystanders and structural engineers today. Another major development, as previously mentioned, was his study of the field of hydraulics. While working on the canals of the Arno and Lombardy regions, Leonardo da Vinci made some detailed studies on the nature of water pressure. From his work, It is widely believed that he invented the hydrometer,
Okay, so it has been believed that he invented the hygrometer.
a device used today to measure the specific gravity of water.
Okay.
He is also credited with the invention of the odometer. While crude, it was perfectly functional and enabled him to create accurate maps. Modern versions of this device can be found in most forms of transportation today, but these are just some of his great works. The vast majority of his designs were never publicly published, financed, or built. In fact, some of his inventions would not have been able to be realized at the time because the technology needed to construct them did not exist. It would take centuries of technological advances for these ideas to become anything but fantasy. Leonardo's theoretical and
So I think also he has also has the ideas about uh, plane, flying machines.
practical work in engineering would greatly influence later engineers and earn him the mantle of first engineer of the modern era.
So friends, I also think that Leonardo has also built a concept of Wright brothers, the brothers who created the flight machines, aeroplanes. So I think that he also having that ideas of how to fly in the air, because there are some scenes it has been shown a fly. So yes, those technologies, whatever he has he has applied all these ideas in all those of these notebooks that needed a huge technology, and that time those technologies were never existed, or it may be huge expensive to build all those technologies, whatever he has drawn, whatever he has applied all his ideas in notebooks. Those technologies that time it was not there, but later on, in after 400 or 300 years later, all those technologies were being built by some other scientist. I've also heard that Leonardo da Vinci's all those notebooks was revealed after 200 or 300 years. Before that, it was all in a secret. All was in a secret. Nobody knows. No public knows. But after 200 to 300 years later, after his death, it was being revealed, and all those engineering technologies, inventions, ideas, people know, people knows about those things. That time it was very much astonished that how a person, multi-talented person, knows everything, interested in everything, sculptor, visionary, machines, mathematics, all those things. Also, I have also heard that Leonardo da Vinci is ambidextrous. You know, ambidextrous, that is the ability to write in both hands. So he has that ability to write in both hands also. That is why he is having some great mind. Even he used to spend his time near a river, and he has drawn one painting of a river in which it can be see-through. Transparency of water can be seen. I mean the bed, water bed, and the flow of water in that drawing has been shown so accurately that there is lots of transparency in that painting about the water and the water bed. I mean the layer of the down level. So there's a great thing. Leonardo da Vinci is a great thing. It's a great influencer for today's engineers. So friends, what do you think about Leonardo da Vinci? I hope you have known his name, and this is just a short biography, short informations. Although there is no technology of so much about Leonardo da Vinci's, like we use in today's technology such as light bulbs of Thomas Edison. But Leonardo da Vinci's technologies we don't use till now, but all those ideas is a great thing for future engineers. So friends, what do you think about Leonardo da Vinci's? Just let me know. Okay, if you like it, just like the videos.